This one property deal averages us between £2,700 and £3,000 per month positive cash flow. We bought this property for £283,000. It was revalued at £385,000. So we actually added 100 grand of value with a £30,000 refurb. If I'd put the same amount of money into Bitcoin, would I have made a better return with Bitcoin? And the answer is hello, I'm Sean Fitzpatrick, and today I'm going to be showing you around some of my portfolio in Oxford. Since joining Progressive in January 2022, I've built a rent-to-rent portfolio, a buy-to-let portfolio, I do flips and assisted sales, and I work with private investors, and I would know how to do none of it unless I had Progressive's help. So before we dive into the video, to see more property content like this, or to build a portfolio like mine, make sure you like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. So the first stop on our portfolio tour today is actually this property, which is my residential property. It's a beautiful thatched cottage in South Oxfordshire, surrounded by wonderful fields, and we see some amazing sunsets. This deal is actually one that I won the Most Creative Property Deal of the Year award through Progressive. And the reason I won it is because I combined several different creative strategies into one to make this a high cash flowing deal. First of all, it's a rent to rent and we're living in it ourselves. So we got this on a corporate lease for 5 years from the landlord. The property is quite extensive, it has lots of bedrooms, so we actually have 2 lodgers living with us who both pay us, and then that covers our rent to the landlord. But we have another bedroom on Airbnb, and when the guests stay in this Airbnb, we earn more income, and that covers all of our bills. So when we put all this together, this one property deal averages us between £2,700 and £3,000 per month positive cash flow. That's a pretty good deal. So the next property on our tour is a residential property that we used to live in that we now have tenants in. Let's go. Well, Oxford is considered one of the more expensive places in the UK to buy property. And so what I look for in property is I look for ways to add value. And this is really key for anybody who wants to get into property investment. If you're going to buy a property and you want to make a profit from that property, generally speaking, you need to find properties that you can do something to add value. So properties that are run down, maybe properties that haven't been decorated for 40 years, properties that you can add space to, perhaps you can add a bedroom using a stud wall. If you can do that sort of thing, then you can add a lot of value to your properties. That way, you can be more certain that you're going to get the capital growth that you want. For an expensive area like Oxford, I'd be looking definitely for properties that I could add a lot of value to through cosmetic refurbs and potentially adding bedrooms. So here we are at the second property that we're going to see today, and it's this beautiful end terraced house here. Now this property is one that myself and my wife used to actually live in. We bought this property as a residential property on a residential mortgage. We realized that if we were to move to the cottage, we needed to put tenants in this property. So we applied, and this is a golden nugget, we applied for a consent to let from our bank. Now a consent to let is where you can contact your bank and they will give you specific permission to have tenants in your property even if you have a residential mortgage. And what that means is our tenants, who are wonderful, they're actually paying rent and we can use that rent to pay down our own residential mortgage, which is really, really cool. So when we bought this property for £283,000. We spent about £30,000 on a refurb, and when we had it revalued, it was revalued at £385,000. So we actually added 100 grand of value with a £30,000 refurb. I was thinking about that capital growth, and I actually compared it to Bitcoin over the same period. If I'd put the same amount of money into Bitcoin, would I have made a better return with Bitcoin? And the answer is no. We actually made more of a gain on this property than we would have if we'd gone into Bitcoin. So I get asked all the time, property, Bitcoin, stocks, shares, whatever. For me, property will always be the best. Do you want to gain limitless earning potential? As you can see from this video, property investing is the answer. Get the expert's blueprint for success from those who have already built deca-million-pound property portfolios, and avoid the mistakes that uneducated investors don't know about, but we do. Download your free guide now. So here we are outside one of my properties in Oxford. It's this one just up here, and it's a 5-bed HMO, and we currently have corporate clients in this one. So really interesting story about this one. I needed to find a property for my corporate client within just a few weeks. And so it was a real scramble. We needed to find a licensed HMO in Oxford for 5 people within just a couple of weeks. And so I was scrambling and I was phoning agent after agent after agent. I eventually did find an agent who had said yes. And as we were halfway through that process, the landlord pulled out. And this meant that we ended up having literally days to try and find a property for this corporate client who needed a 5-bed HMO. It was actually through an online travel agent, booking.com. We got in contact with the person who was advertising this property. We struck up a deal. They gave us a nice discount and we managed to find the property that we needed. And so it's now a fully licensed HMO. Our tenants are booked in there. They're currently on a 2-year contract, but actually that's going to extend to 5 years. So for me, property investing and the whole concept of property investing became a lot easier once I realized how to do it properly and how to do it effectively and how to solve people's problems so you can create win-win situations to structure the best deals for you and for them. If you can find a way of giving the person who's selling their property or wants to rent their property on a corporate let basis or whatever, what they want, whilst you still are able to cash flow the property, then it becomes a lot easier. Is property investing challenging? I think it can be. But if you have the right knowledge and you take the right action and you have mentors around you who are helping you and you're following a proven system, then it becomes a lot easier. So here we are at another one of my properties. And what's really interesting about this property is I actually have this on a joint venture agreement with Kevin McDonald on his rent-to-rent joint venture. This is a 5-bed HMO. It does look a little bit shabby on the outside, but a little golden nugget for you. It's not what's on the outside that matters, it's what's on the inside that counts. Because even if a property looks a little bit shabby on the outside, you can make it look beautiful on the inside and command higher rents. This property was originally advertised to rent through an agent. And if you find a great agent to work with, they are worth their weight in gold. Because if you build commonality, connection, and rapport with a good agent, they can actually feed you property after property after property. And some people I know have built their entire portfolios because they've worked with a really great agent that they've created win-win situations with, and that's what it's all about. Now with this particular property, it was advertised with an agent, but the agent lied to me. So the agent had told me that they had put my offer forward to the landlord and that the landlord had refused my offer. I just had this gut feeling that they hadn't done it because my offer was so good, because I want to create win-win situations with people. I didn't understand why a landlord would turn down the guaranteed rent that I was offering for the length of time I was offering. So I actually went and spoke to one of the neighbours of the neighbouring property and found out who the landlord was, because I wanted to make sure he was getting the best possible deal. So I actually found out the landlord's address and I posted a letter through his door saying, really sorry to bother you. I know that the agent has spoken to you about this deal already, but I'm just wondering if we can have a conversation with each other so I can explain the ins and outs of the deal, so I can show you what a great deal this is for both of us and for the agent as well. Anyway, the landlord called me back and he told me that the agent hadn't even mentioned it to him. The agent had lied to him as well. So in the end, the client and I ended up coming up with our own agreement and the agent lost out. Sometimes in properties you will face problems, but I believe that in every problem there is an equal or greater opportunity. As long as you're creating a win-win situation where you know you can help that vendor whilst making money yourself, there will be an opportunity in the problem. So find the problem, find the solution, and you will make money. So there we have it. That was a quick tour of some of my property portfolio in Oxford. And it just goes to show that with the right knowledge, a good mentor, and a healthy dose of action, what you can do in the world of property. If you want to build a portfolio like mine, make sure to like, subscribe, ding the notification bell so you can get more great content like this in future. If you would like to learn more about these strategies and how to make them work for you, come on down to our flagship Multiple Streams of Property Income event and learn directly from the UK's leading property experts, Kevin McDonald, Tony Gargan, and Wendy Bromwell.